At Your Desk, a brand new live session series by Nia, designed to help you tackle life's challenges with more confidence and calm. My name is Noreen Chaudhary, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. We are excited to have you here today. In each session, we'll guide you through exercises rooted in evidence based practices to help you build resilience and maintain mental well being. Whether you're dealing with stress, anxiety, or just looking to enhance your mental strength, these sessions are here to support you. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a behavior many of us might be all too familiar with: scrolling, and how it can spiral into depression. You know how it goes. You are lying in bed or waiting for the coffee to brew. You open your phone, and before you know it, you're scrolling through article after article about wars, climate disasters, economic crisis, and celebrity scandals gone wrong. 15 minutes turn into an hour, and when you finally look away from your screen, you're felt you're left anxious, hopeless, and just flat out exhausted. This is scrolling, and it has a serious impact on our mental health. But don't worry, because today we'll break down what it is, how it feeds into depression, and some practical strategies to shift your focus for a healthier mind. What is scrolling? Doom scrolling isn't just reading the news, it's an almost compulsive habit that keeps us going through article after article, even when it's making us feel worse. The word itself comes from two parts: doom, as in disaster or bad news, and scrolling, that endless flickering of thumb on your phones or laptops. Picture this: it's late at night, and maybe you just meant to quickly check one or two headlines. You read a piece of a natural disaster in a different part of the world. Tragic. But then you click on another article about rising inflation, which links you to a story about economic struggles in your own town. Soon it's 2 in the morning, and your brain is buzzing with worry. Let's say there's been a new wave of layoffs in the tech industry. You might start reading about that and thinking, how will this impact my job security? You keep scrolling and find stories about inflation, political division, and even health crisis. Eventually, you're reading about studies that say that the economy might not recover for years. And the next thing you know, you're in bed with this mountain of worry that feels very personal, even if none of it directly affects you. This is the essence of doom scrolling: an accumulation of anxiety from stories that don't have any clear resolution. Here are some clear signs you might be doom scrolling: feeling anxious or overwhelmed after scrolling. If you often feel more stressed, anxious, or even hopeless after browsing news or social media, it could be a sign that doom scrolling is affecting your mental state. Difficulty stopping. You tell yourself you'll only check a few headlines or spend a couple of minutes on your phone, but find yourself scrolling much longer than planned. This compulsion, despite knowing its impact, your mood is a classic sign: consuming mostly negative content. Doom scrolling often involves consuming a lot of negative, crisis driven content. If you find that most of what you are reading or watching is centered on disasters, conflicts, or negative news, it could be a sign. Feeling numb or helpless. Constant exposure to distressing content can leave you feeling like there's no positive or hopeful left to hold on to, leading to feelings of helplessness or numbness. Physical signs of stress. You might notice physical symptoms like a tight chest, tense shoulders, a faster heart rate. Our bodies react to stress triggers even when they come from digital sources. And this physical tension can signal that the content is negatively affecting you. Interference with daily life or sleep. If doom scrolling is cutting into your daily routine, like staying up late or starting your day in a bad mood because you checked the news, it's worth noticing. Let's look at the link to depression. Doom scrolling has a big impact on your mental health, primarily because it triggers a cycle of stress and fear. Every time we see a negative headline, our brain releases cortisol, which is our body's primary stress hormone. That's a normal reaction in a small doses. It helps us respond to threats, but doom scrolling means that the stress doesn't stop. We are constantly exposed to news, new threats, and even with every new scroll. Over time, the exposure can make us feel helpless and even numb to good things that is happening around us. Our thoughts can start turning negative with feelings like nothing is going right in the world or what's the point of trying when everything seems so bleak. So, when that negativity settles, it can make us feel more isolated, which is one of the biggest triggers for our depression. Let's look at this example. Imagine reading about a series of floods due to climate change. At first, it might be heartbreaking or concerning, but if you keep going, article after article, it can start to feel overwhelming. Eventually, you might think the world is falling apart and there's nothing I can do about it. That helplessness can seep into our areas of life, our work, our friendships, relationships, personal goals, creating an undercurrent of pessimism and sadness that might not have been there before. Now, it's important to recognize doom scrolling and breaking the cycle. So, how can we recognize when doom scrolling is happening and stop it before it spirals into something worse? First of all, awareness is the key. If you're finding yourself anxious or in a bad mood after scrolling, ask yourself, what kind of content have I been consuming? Reflecting on how you feel after reading certain news can help you recognize if it's adding value to your life or just dragging you down. Let's look at some practical techniques to stop doom scrolling. Setting boundaries. Limit your news intake to specific times of the day. For example, you could say, I'll check the news once in the morning and once in the evening. If you're used to scrolling before bed, try switching to a book, a podcast, or calming activity instead. Example, you could replace your phone with a book on your nightstand. If you're tempted to reach out to your phone, set a goal to read a page. Even 5 minutes of non news activity before bed can help break the doom scrolling cycle. Balancing out negative with positive. One thing I find helpful is to mix up the content I consume. Follow some uplifting accounts or subscribe to newsletters that share positive news like stories of communities coming together or progress in medical research. For example, say you read about environmental disasters in the morning. You could balance that by reading stories about people creating sustainable solutions or wildlife conservation efforts. These kind of stories remind us that good things are happening too, even when the headlines don't always focus on them. Practice the three good things exercise. Each day, write down three good things that happened. They don't have to be huge wins. Something as small as I had a good cup of coffee counts. Research shows that this exercise can shift your mindset to notice positive things more naturally, making us less likely to dwell on the negatives. For example, if you are someone who scrolls through social media and sees negative news, stop and write down three things that went well that day. Even on a rough day, it could be as simple as enjoying a favorite song, finishing a small task, or catching up with a friend. Now let's look at a healthier mindset to develop and to break from the 24 bar 7 news cycle. Living in a world that seems constantly on edge can be overwhelming, but we don't have to let the news cycle dictate our mental health. Let's look how to break this mindset and bring about a healthier mindset. First is to practice gratitude. Every day, think of one thing you're grateful for. You don't need to journal for this. You could just think about it on your morning walk or even in shower. Gratitude gives us perspective and reminds us the positives of our own lives. Mindfulness breaks. A mindfulness app for a few minutes of deep breathing can help you center your mind and break the cycle of negativity. If you're in the habit of doom scrolling, these short breaks can make it easier to refocus and be present in the present moment. For example, next time you catch yourself doom scrolling, stop and do a quick breathing exercise. Take 5 deep breaths in and out, paying attention to how each breath feels. This pause helps you break the autopilot of scrolling. Media detox. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try stepping away from the news and social media for a day or two. Sometimes we don't realize how much stress we are absorbing until we take a break. For example, if you notice that every time you scroll through the news, you feel more anxious, give yourself permission to take a day off. You can even delete the news app temporarily. When you come back, it'll feel like less like a compulsion and more like a choice. Doom scrolling can affect a lot of us, and it's okay to admit when it's taking a toll on your mental health. By becoming aware of it and setting boundaries and refocusing on positive habits, we can prevent the negativity from hijacking our mental health. Our minds are sensitive to what we feed them, and we have the power to choose what kind of fuel they get. If doom scrolling is affecting your mood, sleep, your daily life despite of efforts to manage it, consider reaching out for support. A mental health professional can provide you tools to break the cycle and manage the anxiety. Seeking help can be a strong step towards finding balance and peace. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope this episode gave you some tools and insight for handling doom scrolling. If it resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts and let us know how you're working to break the habit. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember you don't have to carry the weight of the world alone.